host. With me this morning is Chief David Fallon from the Somerville Police Department. Thank you for coming on so much.
Nancy, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Excellent. As we had chatted earlier, I've done the math, and today is your 90th day as our newly installed police chief, so that's great. Kind of your get the feet wet, but you haven't had any need to get your feet wet. You've been on the force for 16 years, so.
Yeah.
It is great to have you in this new role, and I was hoping for those of our viewers who aren't as familiar with you, if you could give a little bit about your background, your career in the police department, and also we're very proud to thank you for your service in the Air Force as well.
Oh, thank you. Listen, I appreciate, number one, I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate the ability to be here today and talk about the police department, a little bit about myself. But as you mentioned, I have been on for 16 years. I've had, I think, what I believe a very charmed career. You know, I've moved up the ranks quickly. You know, I've obviously held the rank of sergeant. I was a sergeant in the Detective Bureau for a while. I was a juvenile officer, a lieutenant where I was a commander, a captain where I served as East District Commander, which I think was one of the highlights of my career for me. I was fortunate enough to be appointed Deputy Chief for a year, and like you said, 90 days ago today, I was appointed as Chief. So it's just been a great opportunity to serve the citizens of Somerville.
Excellent. And as I had mentioned, you have provided service on a larger scale as well. Tell us a little bit about your time in the Air Force.
Yeah, well, I was 4 years active duty after graduating from Somerville High School. I made the career choice to go into the United States Air Force and served 4 years full-time, as I stated. I was stationed in Germany for 2 years. After Germany, I rotated back to the States, and I was stationed at Griffiths Air Force Base, New York. I was there for 2 days before being deployed to the Middle East during Desert Shield, Desert Storm, where I spent 13 months. But it was a great experience. I moved around a little bit over there, and you know, it was a great opportunity. It was an eye-opener for, you know, to come from Somerville and just experience that different culture over there, and a really good experience. And after that, I decided to leave active duty, and but I stayed on in the reserves for 18 years after that, and served up at Westover Air Force Base in Chicopee, where I was a medic. And from there, I got a chance to travel the world to Guatemala, Honduras, all over the States. I've lived on Indian reservations in North Dakota, Gallup, New Mexico. Just great life experience that I received in the military.
Well, that's why I wanted you to cover that a little bit. You know, people are getting to know you if they're not already familiar with you in your capacity as Chief of Police, but really understanding the details of your background, I think, really helps to understand like the leadership style and your kind of ability to develop instant rapport with people. And we're hearing a lot of that feedback from people in the neighborhoods, business owners that you're meeting with, that, you know, it seems very simple on their part to really develop a quick and easy relationship with you. And I think one of those is able to attribute that to all of the varied experiences you've had, which really, I think, helps your level of comfort when meeting new people and really being able to adapt to different situations. So it's great to have you in this new role.
Thank you.
I did enjoy when you were the East District Captain. You know, that was nice to have that in the neighborhood. And I know we now have Captain Stanford down there who is doing a wonderful job. But with all of these experiences, looking ahead, what is your vision for the Somerville Police Department now as steering the ship?
Yeah, I think, you know, we have to use data. We have to be data driven because you have to streamline your resources. But I think you have to use the data, you know, with a community policing mentality. So I think it's, you know, it's not Dave Fallon that's going to implement community policing. It's the frontline officers and what they do with their downtime. And we're seeing great examples of that, of officers, you know, just starting, even within 90 days, to start to take the initiative. I mean, Henry Diaz, our courthouse officer, sends out a book of all the court complaint language, you know, that was online. He worked with Somerville High School, the printing department, to have that developed in hard copy and send it out. I mean, it's just little things like that that you start to notice and say, you know what, here's a guy, patrolman, down there on his own, takes it upon his own initiative to implement something like that. I mean, I received an email 2 weeks ago with Katie Costa, strong connections in Somerville, strong connections at 25 Highland Ave. Now, she's in the Detective Bureau. I seen an email that she sent to her supervisor, Captain Donovan, where she's going to adopt 25 Highland Ave, start holding meetings there with the elderly, start solving issues within the building. So it's stuff like that as the chief that, you know, Dave Fallon, you can't be omnipresent and bring community policing everywhere. It's the patrolmen and the frontline officers that are really going to make that connection, the community connections, right? Connecting communities, make that connection in the city.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important, like you said. We have an amazing number of dedicated men and women, both sworn officers and civilian staff, who I think take a lot of pride in representing the Somerville Police Department. And you know, you're out there in the community in different capacities, and I know we've talked before, a lot of people's interactions with the police department is reactionary. Something bad has happened, your car's been vandalized, your home's been broken into, you've been assaulted. Those, for a lot of people, are their first experience with the police department. And that's kind of a common thread. Something bad happens, we call, and we fully expect you to respond and take care of it for us. But I think these other opportunities are really helping to show a more holistic experience in the community. So community members are getting to know the police department in, for lack of a better term, a friendlier way. You know what I mean? They're coming and they're having positive experiences with them. They're able to interact with our young people. And I know we're going to talk about one of those examples in a few minutes, but there's this opportunity to just really get out there and take pride in your work and be able to experience that and spread that feeling amongst the community. And there's been such positive feedback from people having interactions with the police that it's so nice to be a part of that.
It's huge. I mean, I think, the chief isn't going to really bring community police, but the messaging from the police, from the chief of police, that message that pushed down is so important. And the message from myself and my command staff is that we are the community. I mean, on the most basic level, we receive our authority from the community to do our job. But also, Somerville, the city does a great job. If you have to live in the city for 6 years, 6 or 7 years, when you first become a police officer, you have to live in the city for a year before you take the exam. So, sometimes I think the police culture can take over a department, and it's us. So it's the police department, it's the city, it's DP, it's the fire department. It's not. The message from the chief's office is, look, we are the community. The person you pull over, that's your neighbor, that's Somerville community. When when we work together, I don't think there's no problem that we can't solve. Working with the community. If it's the police department on its own, we're not going to be able to solve anything. But working together and having that connection with the community, I don't think there's a problem we can't solve here in Somerville.
Right, and I think you've been very proactive in sending that message. At the recent ResiStat meetings, police attendees come to really hear a lot of the public safety information. They want to know about crime across the city. They want to know what's happening in their own ward. And I think, you've been very upfront with saying, we work with you, we work for you, but working with you is the most important part of addressing all of these concerns. And a great way that you're working with organizations in the city is the recent experiences with teen empowerment. Can you chat a little about that?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this, one-on-one a couple of times, and the youth dialogue for the police in the youth of the city, I think, is absolutely huge. And I remember telling you recently that the last youth dialogue they had in the basement, when I walked downstairs, when I got to the bottom of the stairs, I could hear the noise coming out of the room. And that's police officers engaging with youth in the city who are actually at risk. So to me, it's huge. What I'd like to see is, when the weather breaks, we get good weather, to start walking, have a walking dialogue. And I've talked to Stanley Pollock about that. I've talked to Danny McGough, and we've had conversations about it. But let's get the police and the youth together in the neighborhoods. Let's walk into the park as a group and say, look, here we are. It's not the police, it's not teen empowerment. It's Somerville. We're going to make Somerville better. We're going to make the park safer. We're going to make the streets safer. Because as you see a lot at ResiStat, crime is down. Crime is down 21% citywide. Huge.
I know. Knock wood. Yes, we all appreciate that.
But it's really not, well, crime is down good, but how do you feel in your neighborhood? How do you feel when you walk with your child to the store, you walk with your child to the park, or you and your wife go for a walk on Highland Ave? Do you feel safe in Somerville? And we want people to know that Somerville is a very safe city. But the city does a great job of getting people involved on the Summer Streets program, the Arts Beats, the Arts Council. I mean, so my goal as chief is to have officers there to maintain public safety, but what does the officer do when they're there? Are they greeting people? So that's, that's what we're trying to win over there.
Yeah, I really think, like you said, and I don't feel we can emphasize it enough. It's about relationship building.
100%, yep.
I think you said it earlier, if people envision the police department as kind of separate from the rest of us, that doesn't do any of us any good. It needs to be, like you said, these officers are our friends and neighbors.
100%.
So you want them in your neighborhood, and you want, especially like we said, the interaction with the young people. So what a world of difference exists in the potential. So a young person is out with friends of theirs, and they happen upon an officer that they've had the interaction with in the dialogue. How different is the experience when you're able to say, hello, Chief Fallon, how are you? As opposed to kind of averting eye contact and kind of hustling by. And for the officer to be able to say, I remember you, we had a great conversation about your favorite place to eat in the city. It changes the whole dynamic of a situation.
I agree, and that's why one of the biggest efforts we're starting to implement now, it's really in its infancy. We're kind of mapping out the procedure and the documentation of it is that we asked for volunteers, we got an overwhelming response. We're going to have 5 offices adopt the 6th grade citywide. So not just the school, they're going to adopt the 6th grade. So, but they're going to follow that 6th grade until graduation. So each year, we're going to ask for another 5 volunteers. So, you know, we'll have 5 officers involved in the school, 10 next year, 15, 20, and increasing. But this year, you know, momentous moments is probably not the best word, but life events. If an officer gets promoted, invite a lot of the 6th grade. If the officer gets assigned to traffic or narcotics, invite him to the police station. If an officer gets student of the month, they should be able to invite the officer. And just to give kids a touchstone in their life. Say, look at this police officer, he's a guy, he's a family guy, he's a working guy, you know, he's trying to make his way in life. Just as I am, you know, and I think if you get them at 6th grade in their formative years, those relationships can develop that won't just last through school, but last a lifetime. And that's what we're looking to establish.
Right. It's interesting. I have a little anecdote that ties right into that. So years past, I had done a program with 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students at the Healy with some of the community police officers. And I was out at a social event with one of the officers who had participated, and one of the young people who is now a senior in high school came right over, recognized the officer. It was immediately like, how have you been? And like telling about, you know, plans for college and all of these things, because this young woman had the chance to build a relationship with him over 3 years. You know, it was nice. And I love the idea that yours continues on right through graduation. So the opportunity for the police to be involved with young people at key moments of their lives, you know, as you're graduating, as you're making choices and deciding actions that impact your acceptance into college and your employability odds, it's nice to have that kind of sounding board, as you said, as someone to bounce ideas off of and to really have another caring adult in their lives. And I know we're in agreement. Young people today are facing so many concerns that weren't really around when you and I were younger. And they can't have enough adults who care about them in their lives. So if there's another opportunity to add to that, I think it's a great program, and I really look forward to hearing how that goes on.
And I think it goes back to your point is that, you know, your first interaction with a police officer shouldn't be negative. Let's make it positive, right? Even if it's, you know, we believe, you know, the school, the teachers are busy, we understand 100%, but it takes a second to stop in and say, look, have a great day today. Enjoy your day. I'll be around from 2 to 3. You know, I'll be here in this classroom if you have any questions. You know, I think you're right, just to give them that touchstone to go to another person that cares. And I think public safety officials should be mentors. You know, and I think they should mentor within the community and talk to, you know, people of all different ethnic backgrounds and say, look, you know, do good in school, do good in life, and enjoy the process.
And I think you can't underestimate the ripple effect as well. So, you know, you're a parent, I'm a parent. So if your child's participating in a program and comes home and says, I was invited to a promotion ceremony, or I'm getting an award from the superintendent and the office is going to come, that now has the potential to change your experience or your thoughts about the police as well, to, you know, really see that they're taking an active interest in your child. And as a parent, there's nothing you like better than someone, you know, also supporting your child. So I think that's a great thing. And as I said, I really look forward to hearing how that goes. And we're going to definitely circle back once that's underway and maybe get a chance to talk to some of the officers and students who are participating.
I mean, Tony Pelantozzi's been a great help in developing and in kind of brainstorming some of the ideas. Chief Kevin Kelleher from the fire department. So already it's a collaborative effort. And that's what I like about it from the get-go.
That's great. One of the other points you mentioned was the diversity in the community. You know, having contact with people from different cultures, different ethnicities. And one thing that we're noticing more and more now is the department is becoming more reflective of the community. You have several officers with multilinguistic capacities, which always amazes me. And we think, you know, in making choices, how much easier it is to address someone in their native language, to be able to break down those barriers right away. Puts people at ease. I mean, I think, off the top of my head, I think the number is about 50% of our officers are bilingual. That's amazing. It's huge. And as you said, being on the force 16 years, think back, you know, 16 years ago. It's amazing the changes that have happened. But it's also, you know, we're getting out. We went, you know, recently we spoke at the Haitian church on Medford Street, St. Anne's. Went to the congregation, spoke, and I spoke to many young Haitian people about, you know, their aspirations of becoming a police officer. And since then, we've
followed up.
Right.
There's prep courses you can take, and just pointing them in the right direction. If listen, that'd be a bonus. Those communities are the future of Somerville. Hence, they're the future of the Somerville Police Department. So we have to go out and recruit in those communities and get the best officer out there, but an officer that reflects, the citizens that they serve.
Yeah, I think that's so important.
So it's huge, yeah.
One of the things we started the show with was saying you've been in your position for 90 days now, so we've had some other recent promotions as well. So you have 2 new deputies.
We do, yep. Deputy Paul Trent and Deputy Steve Carabino, who's fit in nicely. I mean, they're hard workers.
Yes,
so,
great guys.
They're great guys. And going back a little bit, my leadership style is inclusive. I learned a lot of that coming up through the ranks in the military and watching how leaders, from colonels to generals, actually make decisions. And my decision process, or my decision-making process is, I believe, having the best minds in the room.
Right.
So I think that's one of the things people see as a lot of change at the police department is there's not one guy upstairs making decisions and decisions filter down. I mean, when there's a decision to be made, I'll look right at the on-duty. I'll call 10 guys upstairs and say, look, there's an issue, let's address it, get all the best input, but then be able to make a decision, not let it fester or let it sit, make a decision. But Deputy Trent and Deputy Carabino are great resources for me, and a lot of life experience, as you know, and a lot of experience at the Somerville Police Department.
I think they're great. One of my favorite sayings is a sign of a great leader is his or her ability to surround themselves with other great leaders.
Yeah, you do, yeah.
So we were fortunate to be able to sit down and hear a little bit from Deputy Carabino. So we're going to take a peek at that clip if we want to watch now. Thank you for taking time out of the schedule, Steve.
You're welcome.
We know it's a new job, very busy, we're certain. Phone's been ringing while we were setting up, so you're a man in demand.
Yes.
For our community members who might not be that familiar with you, I wanted to get a little bit of your background as we welcome you into your new role as Deputy Chief. How long have you been on the force now?
About 20 years now.
So you've clearly moved up through the ranks, have served in a variety of capacities.
I have. I've pretty much served in every role here, with the exception of traffic. I never worked in the traffic department here.
That seems like that may not be the most fun gig.
No, sometimes it's not fun.
So you were sworn into your new role back in October, so you've had about 5 or 6 weeks to start to acclimate yourself to this role.
Yes.
So you are the deputy in charge of operations.
Yes.
What does that look like on a daily basis?
Operations, well, you can see I wear a uniform because I don't want to separate myself from the people that I'm supervising. I always wear a uniform, and I'm in charge of uniform patrol, so that's half the department.
And I do like the idea that you do stay in uniform as well. I think it's really important to show solidarity with the officers as well. And you have an amazing police department under your command as well. You know, the men and women of the Somerville Police Department, both sworn and civilian staff, are really amazing and such resources to the community.
Yeah, we're really excited. We're excited about all the new promotions we had recently, and we feel like we have the round peg in the round hole here, and the mayor is moving really quickly, and we want to move at the same speed and make Somerville the best city in the world.
So now looking ahead, as you said, you've only been in the role a couple of weeks and still, getting acclimated and really figuring out, the best course for you to take. What do you see as your next exciting project or challenge ahead?
Well, we want to move out into the community, and you'll hear that from the chief and the other deputy, and we want to partner with the community. It's really boring to just drive around in a car for 8 hours with the windows up, and you don't learn anything, you don't meet people, and the fun part about this job is that you're out there meeting people, learning, and serving.
Right. I know you recently had a chance, speaking of partnership opportunities, we had Teen Empowerment here was doing a dialogue with the police officers, and again, really a great opportunity to connect young people who are such valuable assets in our community to law enforcement, to kind of build that relationship and really break down any stigma and stereotypes that exist. So you had a nice mix. We had 2 brand new officers participate who had only been on the job. I think it was their 3rd day.
Yep.
You had, veteran officers with different amounts of time. We had a community police officer, 2 community police officers, and really just a great opportunity to get right into it. And I know you found your way downstairs and participated in the concentric circle activity. Tell us a little bit about what that was like.
I did. I actually didn't plan on participating. I just thought I knew something was going on there, and when I looked in, it looked like fun, and I thought, hey.
You like fun?
Yeah, I like fun, sure. And I asked Danny if I could join. Danny McLaughlin, the head of Teen Empowerment, he said, jump right in. And it was really interesting to talk to the youth, and I would love to do it again. It was fun.
Now, what do you see, as I said, young, you know, I'm all about the young people in our community and how important they are. So what do you see as a real benefit of having interactions like that with the young people, coming here to the police department?
Sure. Well, I'll give you an example. One of the young guys there said, you know, I'd really like to be a police officer. And I said, well, great. Well, why don't we meet? And we made an arrangement to meet here. He didn't show up, but
maybe he's coming later.
We'll try again. It was supposed to be yesterday. So, I mean, I would like to help somebody that wants to be a police officer someday, and it will help me. Obviously, I'm older, so my point of view is a little different, but I'd like to see the other point of view too. So it's nice to speak to young people, and when something bad happens, it's nice to have that relationship so that they trust you.
Right. I think it helps in reporting crime. I mean, and again, you can't underestimate the benefit. They're walking down the street, an officer goes by, and you're able to say, "Hi, Steve.
Right.
How are you today?" You know, it changes the tone of the encounter. It can potentially have a ripple effect on the people you're with. A business owner who sees the interaction, you know, it really benefits the community all around.
And it's good for us too, because it's really, just think about if your job was just to deal with negative things 8 hours a day, it wears you out, right? Whereas if you have normal conversation and normal interaction, it kind of recharges you. So it's interesting and it's fun and it's normal. You know, our job, oftentimes we deal with things that people shouldn't see and things that are scary, and it's balanced by this other approach where we're out there and we're part of the community.
Right, and I know when we're going to speak with Chief Fallon, I know one of the other things we wanted to touch upon was really reflecting the diversity of the community. So we have officers who are multilingual now, which is such an asset in really having these encounters with our community members, the new collaborations and partnerships that exist, and the training that officers have had regarding dealing with community members with mental health concerns, I think is such a critical area to really realize. You know, we all live here, we all work here. It's an important place to all of us. We make a choice to stay here every day, and everyone in our community is valued. And I think anything that we can do to assist in the interactions between police and community members, police and youth, you know, all of us together, I think really just works towards really implementing the vision Mayor Curtatone has for our city.
I agree. You know, life is stressful. It's difficult. It's high. It's fast-paced, and we just want to be there to make it kind of go seamlessly, smooth, not to interfere, but just to make things safe and make it, you know, make it a good place to live.
Our police force are our neighbors. Having the opportunity to have all of these chance encounters and really building a relationship beyond just you're someone who's not in uniform and they're someone who isn't wearing a uniform is so helpful, I think. Well, I must say, your enthusiasm for the job comes across you in absolute waves, which is great to see, especially after having 20 years on the job. So we wish you the best of luck in your new role as Deputy Chief and look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
That was our newly installed Deputy Carabino. I did want to touch briefly, because we had mentioned Deputy Tranch, who had a scheduling conflict and was not able to be with us today. But I'm imagining now that we could maybe circle back at some point as we're getting an update on the school program and have some time with him and perhaps get a little behind the scenes peek at the police department that we could also do.
100%, yeah. We just redid the 911 center, got some new technology in there. So yeah, we'd love to have you down and maybe have the entire command staff present at the same time.
Yeah, that would be great. I definitely would like to hear from Deputy Tranch about his thoughts as things go forward.
But just on, you know, Deputy Chief Steve Carabino, I mean, just from watching him, you know, and I guess coming through the ranks, me and Steve, I guess we're enough, you know, friendly, but never friends, never one in the same social circles. But just watching him, you know, makes me think of why you pick him a deputy. I've always had the greatest amount of respect for him.
Yes.
I mean, I think a couple of things I take from that is he said, I'm in charge, I'm in command of the patrol division. And he is, and I knew Steve would take that leadership role. You know, and that goes back to, you know, the inclusive leadership style. So I love hearing that from Steve. And then he got right in the community policing. I mean, he was engaged. When I went down to the youth dialogue, he was down there talking. He was engaged, sitting like this. I know he's mentoring kids from teen empowerment, and you know, you said it, his enthusiasm for the police department in the city of Somerville shines through.
And also a gentleman with a varied background. I mean, he has a background in nursing, which I think, again, raises the level of compassion and empathy that a person has, which is really requirements, you know, to be successful in this role. So that was a great time to go down there and speak with him. One thing that he mentioned that I'd like you to give a little more detail about, he had talked about the training and the importance of dealing with people who are in mental health crisis. Can you chat a bit about the program?
Yeah, we've had a great collaboration with the city's health department. We've been able to offer 40 hours of training. I think we did 16 officers the first time, I believe. And we just put through another class of 5, 40 hours of CIT, which is crisis intervention training, and officers received the biggest part of the training I think is important for the people is de-escalation skills.
Yes.
Huge, you know, especially dealing with people with mental illness. You know, I don't want to throw numbers off the top of my head, but we're really watching and see the percentage of the people that we deal with that are suffering from mental illness or in some type of mental health crisis. So it's a great tool. That 40-hour training, I look at it as another tool on the officer's belt to de-escalate the situation, but also to get officers, get the people in crisis to the actual resources they need. 660 Broadway, Cambridge Health Alliance, issues with homelessness. Just a myriad of issues that officers deal with. So I think policing has to move beyond the thought process of, well, why am I at this call?
Right.
This isn't a criminal issue. Why am I here? We have to move beyond that. We are there. We are the first responders at times when people are in mental health crisis. And I think Somerville officers and Somerville itself is really leading the way in changing how we respond and improve how we respond to those people in our community. And recently, we've trained officers in Somerville. Somerville's become a technical regional assistance center for CIT. We've trained officers from Cambridge, Everett, Malden. We're in talks right now. We're looking to expand it to Medford, Lynn, Chelsea. So we're expanding it and really taking a whole community holistic approach to crisis intervention training. So it's been a great resource. We're looking to run another class in the spring, but it addresses substance abuse issues, people with Alzheimer's, and it's excellent. And one thing I'd like to point out is the 40 hours of training is all mental health and professionals from the community that volunteer their time.
Right.
I mean, to me, to sit back and think about that is, you have doctors, nurses, social workers, SWAT negotiators coming in, all volunteer their time to better their community. And it's really, reflective of Somerville's involvement and people's involvement in Somerville.
I think that's a very important part of the vision for the city of Somerville as well, is, we're welcoming to everybody. And part of extending that welcome is realizing people in the community have different needs. As you had mentioned, the importance of being able to engage with someone, who is actively using substances. That doesn't mean that their needs are any less than someone else's. And understanding, having the training and the knowledge to deal with someone who is in the midst of a mental health crisis is unbelievable. One of, I think, the most amazing things, and I had done this in a different capacity myself to really experience it, is part of a training service is you wear headphones and you have voices coming at you randomly, which is someone who is potentially dealing with schizophrenia or in the midst of a mental health crisis could have this. So having those headphones on, not knowing when you're suddenly going to hear a voice directing you to do something, really changes your mindset, I think. I know when I had done it, I was just like, now imagine this happening to you and you're trying to navigate crossing a street, or you're in an interaction with the police who are trying, again, to de-escalate a situation, and all of a sudden, you're hearing voices telling you very specific things. And I think the officers having that knowledge and the firsthand experience with it is really a changing experience. I mean, talking about it and hearing, saying, oh, it must be difficult, but actually participating by putting on those headphones and putting yourself in that person's shoes, I think, changes how you would interact with someone in the future. It's amazing.
Point. Yeah, it's a great point. I actually wore them myself, and to try to, keep a thought process going.
Right.
And just really say, and a big part of crisis intervention training was family members of people with mental illness came in and spoke of how the family has had interactions with the police, good and bad. And now went and look. I think you expect every human being to have empathy, right? I mean, I do. I always try to look for the best in people, and expect people to be kind and good to other people, and you definitely expect that from officers. But officers are human beings too. They haven't. A lot of them haven't had the life experiences, and this training was really an eye opener to that. And the more I think training is vital to the functioning of a police department. The more training we get, especially in areas such as this, is so important.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, you look at the police force and, it's amazing to see what we have, as I said, the ethnic reflection, the increase in female officers. It really is, they're our neighbors, they're our friends, they're,
They're our community, and we are the community. The Somerville Police Department is a reflection of the community in Somerville.
Right. I mean, putting a uniform on doesn't make you any less of a Somervillian.
Exactly,
You know, I mean,
100%. I
it
agree.
definitely
Sure.
is nice
Yeah.
to have that balance. So as we're coming to a close, did you have any thoughts you wanted to end with?
No, I want to thank you for your time. You know, there's a lot of changes coming to the Somerville Police Department. You're changing the culture is not easy, but also, you know, making personnel changes in certain positions is never easy, and those are tough decisions that the command staff is going to make. But I think the decisions that we're making, whether it come down to what we're spending in the budget or all the decisions we're making, are move towards, you know, a more inclusive, you know, community police-minded department. And change comes slow, but you know we're in it to win it, as they say, as a command staff. And you know, I have the utmost respect for the frontline guys. You know, it's not the chief that's, you know, going at 2 o'clock in the morning and everybody's running out of a building that's running into the building. But I've been there. I know what they're dealing with. They got a very, very difficult job. So, and I got the utmost respect for the rank and file of the Somerville Police Department. And that's really what makes my job easy.
Excellent. Well, again, thank you so much for coming on,
Nancy.
and we definitely will follow up to get the behind the scenes and to be able
Great.
to check
I
in
look
with
forward to
Deputy
it.
Trent as well. So,
Great.
thank you.
I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As always, I'd like to thank Joe Constantine and the production crew. We'll see you next month. Thanks for watching.
Great.